federal government introduces new bond into the Nigerian capital market.
Speaker Dogara advises leaders to put the interests of citizens above personal consideration.
Nigeria's Sovereign Investment Authority is refocusing attention on domestic investment.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we take a look at social justice and the quest for national development.
Now, social justice and national development. What is the nexus between the two phrases? Is national development contingent on social justice? Now, what do you say, or what have you thought about it before in any way or form?
Well, Blessing, maybe we need to bestir our memories to further bring clarity to the issue. Now, for lovers of music, especially those who loved reggae in the late 70s, you remember the song by Peter Tosh, who sang that everyone is crying out for peace and no one is crying for justice. I want equal rights and justice. Unfortunately,
no, just say, don't start to sing this one.
Unfortunately, Peter Tosh himself was a victim of gun violence in his country, Jamaica, in 1987.
Well, do these words of Peter Tosh ring any bell? Is the reason for the numerous security and all the challenges facing Nigeria due to the absence of social justice? If not, why is peace so elusive in this country, which is so greatly resource endowed?
Well, again, let's back up a bit and go to the time when Nigeria obtained independence in 1960. Globally, at the time, it was believed that a black country with enormous potentials to compete with the developed countries had come on the scene. Now, Nigeria has had 13 leaders, two of them, of course, serving as military and civilian heads of state, namely Obasanjo and Buhari. And the country also, from 1967 to 1970, fought a civil war and for some years now been battling with militancy in the Niger Delta and more recently Boko Haram terrorism in the northeast of the country. These are, of course, a number of other challenges that the country has had to grapple with, economic and social as well.
So many things that you could reel them off, really. Even ways of improving governance in the country with the introduction of democracy have not really been a roaring success. Well, it's as if election periods in Nigeria have increasingly become moments of low-level conflicts when harming fellow citizens and taking out life is becoming the norm, if not just the norm of the day, just the order of the day, if we say that.
Well, that's right. Of course, we are not in the election season here, but we all know what happens when there are elections in the country. As my colleague Blessing was indicating, we've had staggered or staccato elections, if you like, in some states of the Federation. Rivers, of course, is having to conclude its own assembly elections. Later this weekend, we had elections in Ondo, as well as Edo. Now, in the course of elections, everything is deployed by those in the race to ensure that they win. Now, the rules of the game are often observed more and they breach without any care being given as to the consequences that there may be for the country. Now, all that matters is to win with the hope that once in office, things will be sorted out using the apparatus of government.
Oh, forgetting that that office to serve and not any other means. Well, institutions of government are compromised without qualms, and the result is there for all to see. So when will national development be the major concern of all that matters? No matter what. Will ensuring justice, as sung by Peter Tosh many years ago, help? Welcome to the program. My name is Blessing Abu.
All right, once again, social justice and the quest for national development is the issue of focus for us today when we'll have our guest who will come in the course of the program, as always, to thrash out this particular subject matter. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I join Blessing in welcoming you to this edition of the program, reaching you live on the network service of Africa's largest television network. And we're broadcasting from our headquarters studios here in Abuja. In the course of the program, we shall have our regular complimentary segments, including newspaper review, business, sports, and others. In the meantime, we're going over to the newsroom now, and our caster this morning is Tessie Justin Binson. Hi, Tessie.
Hello, Kingsley. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on the news. The federal government has introduced a new bond into the Nigerian capital market, while urging investors at a conference in Abuja to take advantage of this opportunity. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo says the green bond is a crucial achievement for Nigeria's battle against climate change.
We are looking at investment opportunities that usually have been ignored, especially low carbon infrastructure, solar powered infrastructure, and several other low carbon infrastructure. I think that this presents an opportunity. All the eligible projects for green bonds are essentially low carbon type projects, low carbon type infrastructure, which usually doesn't get funded, but now we have a great opportunity to do so.
Also, the federal government is determined to rehabilitate the facilities at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo said this during an inspection tour of the airport. He said the present administration is doing a lot towards creating an enabling environment for business to thrive in the country.
There's a lot to be done, a lot of maintenance. We just looked at some of the facilities. We've been doing a lot of work on ease of doing business, on making the environment friendly for not just for local transportation, but also for those who want to come and do business in Nigeria. So the airport obviously is one of the major places where we need to ensure that facilities are working and that things are being run properly. So we've looked around, we've seen quite a few of the equipment, we've seen many things that need to be done, many things that need to be corrected, and we'll have to work on them as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Your Excellency. With your permission, sir, can you just quickly have a word?
Sure.
Speaker House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara has advised leaders at all levels to put the interest of their subjects above personal interest. He gave the advice when he received the plaque awarded him by the Sun newspaper as its political icon of the year.
God brings us together, it can only be for a purpose. And then if we draw from each other's strengths, only God knows what will be the limit. The skies will not even be the limit.
The Budget Office of the Federation says its doors are open to all users of budget information to allay misconceptions about the document. Director General of the Budget Office, Ben Akabueze, while speaking in Abuja, expressed the commitment of his office for continuous improvement of the budgetary system for optimal national development.
It is important to note that there are over 800 MDAs, which must make provision for expenses related to the budget exercise.
Nigeria's Sovereign Investment Authority says it is refocusing its attention on domestic investment, driven by the compelling opportunities in the domestic market. This, it says, is to drive sustained economic development for the benefit of all Nigerians. The managing director of the authority, Uche Oji, stated this at a review of financial performance for 2016 and the outlook for 2017.
It's as at September, of 142 billion naira, of which 54 billion is actual core investment income. And then there's the impact of revaluation, of course, as we went from 196 to 304. But I think that we're seeing more and more domestic opportunities here. So you're going to see more of allocation of our investments into the domestic markets in 2017.
The Presidential Committee on Northeast Initiative has distributed food worth millions of naira to internally displaced persons in Gombe State with assurance of more assistance. Musa Abubakar reports that the leader of the delegation, Professor Sunday Ochoche, said the items, though small, are reflective of the federal government's determination to help ease the plight of those affected by insurgency.
It is small, but targeted to bring relief to those who have endured a lot of hardship, and it is going to continue. We are targeting a total of 1,400 households.
We want to have a situation whereby these IDPs will finally return to their homes, especially with the successes recorded by the Nigerian military, Nigerian army. We are hopeful that very soon they will all go back home and engage themselves in meaningful economic activities.
Ahead of the 8th of March closure of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, for repairs on its runway, Minister of State for Aviation Hadi Sirika met with representatives of foreign airlines to brief them and discuss the readiness of the Kaduna Airport, which is to serve as an alternative. International airline operators are expected to be invited to Kaduna Airport to ascertain the level of preparedness for the task of serving as an alternative airport.
So I thought it wise that at this point in time, having been having made Kaduna very, very ready to receive you, I think I should share certain things with you, and that's why I called you to this meeting, is to discuss how the movement into Kaduna will look like, and to hear from you if there are any further requests as to things that we should do.
And still on the relocation of flight activities and closure of the Abuja airport, activities are gearing up with various agencies crossing the T's and dotting the I's on its part. The Ministry of Health is scaling up services to effectively tackle emergencies that may arise in the course of the use of the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway by travelers. Mujanatu Adam Sahid reports that the relevant stakeholders have drawn up an emergency response plan.
This is a pilot project. We are going to learn from it, and it is going to be extended to other road corridors. The aim is to bring emergency response in Nigeria up to modern standard.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has emphasized federal government's commitment to ensuring that due process and diligence are adhered to in all sectors of the economy. He stated this at a public hearing of the House Committee on Public Procurement. National Assembly correspondent Dennis Adegunloye reports that the interface with the committee is essentially to ensure adherence to the Public Procurement Act.
You have procurement activities that are within your threshold. You have those procurement activities that are above your threshold. And those ones are usually evaluated by BPP before you take same to the Federal Executive Council for award.
Governance, like they say, is a continuum. We are here being asked to account for what happened in 2011 when none of us was there. But I think that is actually the essence of governance. That's the essence of ensuring that due process, due diligence is conducted in whatever we do.
Still on legislative matters, the Senate Committee on the Federal Capital Territory is to fashion out a framework within which maintenance and beautification of the capital city will be handed over to banks and other philanthropic organizations. Chairman of the Senate Committee, Dino Malayo, stated this while unfolding the new plan of action to the Senate press call on Thursday.
We will forthwith immediately suspend all contracts. Immediately we take off that is ongoing with contractors for the maintenance of the city, because we have not seen any results.
The National Space Research and Development Agency says a partial solar eclipse will be visible in different degrees of totality on Sunday, the 26th of February. The highest degree of obscurity in Nigeria during the natural occurrence is expected to be observed in the southern part of the country, particularly Port Harcourt, Uyo, and Calabar, while the lowest degree of obscurity will be in the northern part of the country, particularly Kebbi State. A statement by the agency's head of media, Dr. Felix Ale, says there is no cause for alarm as solar eclipse, which is a natural occurrence, will be observed across the nation, making each part of the country a great site for viewing the eclipse in different degree of obscurity. That's the news. Good Morning Nigeria continues shortly with Blessing and Kingsley after this break.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words. Run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
So what's up, sweetheart? You really look like you're up to something.
I have a secret.
Okay.
I'll be going to Europe next week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like you have your visa, your passport, your plane ticket?
No, not that way. Some men are helping us. We pay them, they take us through the desert, and then we cross the sea into Europe.
The desert, the sea. Isn't that the route where many have died?
Yes, it is indeed a very dangerous journey. In 2016 alone, 4,900 people died while crossing the Mediterranean Sea to enter Europe. Many were Nigerians. For the very few who survived the journey, they are forced into prostitution or other crimes just to survive. Eventually, they will be arrested and deported to Nigeria. Don't be a victim. Don't go this way.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Now, the question is, the world's ability to feed itself in jeopardy? Well, so says the World Agricultural Organization. Amina Najim will tell us more about this, as well as other stories on the business package this morning.
For some time now, the Nigerian budget has been benchmarked at the crude oil production of 2.2 million barrels per day, but this has over the years remained mere projections. As the 2017 budget undergoes scrutiny at the National Assembly, economic watchers continue to ask why the projection continues. Director General Budget Office says steps have been taken by the government through the Presidential Amnesty Program to check militant activities which affected negatively the 2016 budget.
Production is currently at 2 million barrels per day. We have the Transforcados pipeline that is under repair. When that comes on stream, that's going to bring another 200,000 to 300,000 barrels per day. So, as for the price, we initially projected at $42.50 per barrel. The National Assembly has chosen to increase that to 44.5, but even 44.5 remains a conservative price for 2017.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Stock Exchange continued to witness negative sentiments in early trading sessions on Thursday. Next is a graphic summary of latest closing figures. In other developments, the Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, has warned that the world will have trouble feeding itself in decades to come unless countries undertake major transformations on the way they grow and distribute food. In a report, The Future of Food and Agriculture, Trends and Challenges, paints a bleak and hungry future, said because of growing global population, the world will have 10 million mouths to feed in 2050 compared to the current 7.3 billion. FAO Director General Jose da Silva, underlining the gravity of the situation, said almost half of the forests that once covered the earth are now gone, and groundwater sources have been depleted rapidly. Biodiversity has been deeply eroded. As a result, planetary boundaries may well be surpassed if current trends continue. The report argues greater number of people will be eating fewer cereals, greater amounts of meat, fruit, vegetables and processed foods, a result of an ongoing global dietary transition that will further add to those pressures, driving more deforestation, land degradation and greenhouse gas emissions. Finally, the head of the World Trade Organization, WTO, announced the entry of the Trade Facilitation Agreement, TFA, into force, describing it as the biggest reform of global trade this century. Roberto Azevedo told reporters in Geneva that the TFA sent a message about the power of trade to support jobs, growth around the world in developed and developing countries alike.
I received ratifications from Rwanda, Oman, Chad, and Jordan, and that brings the total number of ratifications to 112. Now, this means that we have crossed the required legal threshold of 2/3 of the WTO membership. Now, therefore, I'm very happy to announce that the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement has now entered into force.
WTO said the TFA, which seeks to expedite movement, release and clearance of goods across borders, launches a new phase for trade facilitation reforms all over the world and creates a significant boost for commerce and the multilateral trading system as a whole. WTO forecasted that the full implementation of the TFA would slash member trade costs by an average of 14.3%, with developing countries having the most to gain. The TFA is the first multilateral deal concluded in the 21-year history of the World Trade Organization to enter into force. And that concludes the business segment. I am Amina Nujain.
All right, thank you very much, Amina Nujain, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us, we're going to take a look at the headlines in some of today's newspapers. Bayo Tobi, as always, is here with us for today's edition of Newspaper Review. Bayo, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Blessing. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. We have very interesting stories on the front pages of the papers today. Stories about the Naira, and then stories also about what the police have described as reprisal attacks. Let's begin with this day. We'll take a look at the lead story of this day newspaper, which is headlined in the midsection of the paper. Police warn against reprisals as MTN's office is vandalized. That's what we have from this day as the lead story. Police warn against reprisals as MTN's office is vandalized. And it says there are three riders to that headline. FG not ready to speak on incident, says Communications Ministry. And Telco CEO leads team to meet Oshibanjo. And Nigerian students want ties with South Africa severed and burn country's flag. Now, those are the headlines as well as the riders from this day newspaper, the lead story from this day. Lesson?
Okay, talked about the forex. Dollar falls to 417 naira. That's the Daily Trust. That's the front page of the Daily Trust. Dollar falls to 417 naira at parallel markets as external reserves rise by $3.2 billion. That's on front. That's the leading headline. But just above that, you have bank directors, staff responsible for 40% bad loans. This is coming from NDIC. And to the River State, 25 indicted INEC staff to face prosecution. Well, for the graphic representation of how the Naira is performing against the dollar, you have that displayed right there on the Daily Trust. But just below that, you have Other stories, xenophobia, youths attack MTN office in Abuja. You find that story on page 5. And kidnappers of German professor demand 60 million naira. That's what you find on page 4. Sheriff, as Alimadu Sheriff takes charge at PDP Secretariat. The story trending on page 34. Bayo.
Thank you. Let's start with the story about the reaction to the xenophobia. Youths in Abuja are reported to have staged a peaceful protest against xenophobic attack against Nigerians in South Africa. They visited 3 South African companies, a telecom company, a supermarket company, and a satellite television distribution subscription service company. However, some people are reporting that the visit at the telecom company turned a little violent and the police had to disperse the youth. Meanwhile, the South African High Commissioner to Nigeria has said that he has assured that there is collaboration to find lasting solution to the attacks. The High Commissioner to Nigeria, Lulu Nguni, condemned recent attacks on foreigners, particularly Nigerians. He told Senator Shehu Sani, who visited the Chairman Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, that countries need to work together to bring an end to the problem. He says South Africa cannot stay as an island. It will continue to work for peace building and interaction. He, however, added there are concerns by South Africans that a few foreigners, including some Nigerians, were involved in drug peddling. We are not condoning violence, but it would be wrong not to fully express the concerns about this drug menace. However, he said people must not take the laws into their hands. There are foreigners, including many Nigerians, that are law-abiding and contributing to the development of South Africa. Senator Shehu Sani also addressed Nigerians and said those who are threatening to protest must do everything within the law. There's the positive news about the economy. Naira has begun an upward swing against some foreign currencies. If you recall, by last weekend, it had gone to 516 Naira to a dollar. On Tuesday, it came to 510. Wednesday, 505. And as at Thursday, yesterday, it's at 470 Naira to a dollar. These changes is attributed to the rules of supplying foreign exchange, which the central bank put in place on Monday. And the central bank is said to have supplied a quantum of 500 million, and 23 banks bought as much as $371 million. Traders in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, particularly at the parallel market, are attributing the development to the new policy of central bank. Presently, the pound sterling, which used to be 645, is gone down to 610. Euro was 537, is now about 507. There are other positive contributions too that is affecting this. Daily Trust, which is always very apt with its statistics, has pointed out that external reserves have appreciated with $171 and is now $229.32 billion. Also, crude oil has improved by 7.77%. It has increased, and our daily production is now put at 1.92 million barrels a day. Oil has held its way above $50 per barrel. Since OPEC cut oil production, Brent crude as of today is going for $56.84 per barrel.
All right, Bayo, thank you very much. We hope we'll also see the knock-on effect on the prices of goods and services in the country. An egg is selling for at least 60 naira now. And
if I'll be permitted, I dare to dream, that's one day.
Yes, even
1 naira will be equal to $1.
Yes, in fact, you're surprised that even the man who sells Gary in the market says it is because of dollar.
Of dollar, yes. So I hope they are hearing now that the naira is appreciating against the dollar.
And so their price was
the prices, yes. There should also be depreciated. There should be an inverse relationship, between that. Okay. But just to take some other headlines from the front page of this day, which we took the lead story earlier, along with the riders. Let's go over now to this day, above the nameplate of this day. If we can have that on the screen right away. Well, that's you see the story there. It says Naira extends gains on parallel market, now 480 to the dollar, but that's conflicting with Daily Trust, we're saying 470, but at least it's a climb down from the 500s that we had seen in the past a couple of weeks. Now, CBN auctions another $230 million, says manufacturers to access funding from diverse interventions. Now, also there on the front page of this day newspaper, it says, Bankers Committee reintroduces charges on cash deposits. Bankers Committee reintroduces charges on cash deposits. And just immediately below the nameplate says Harvard School appoints Aisha Mohammed Oyebode into its leadership board. And another political story quite below the lead story, that's the second lead, would say, Sheriff reopens PDP secretariat and, to unfold the peace agenda Monday. And McCarthy accuses chairman of breaking into office. INEC to overhaul Rivers office and punish 28 indicted staff. Details of the story can be found inside.
Well, talking about the political story, the blueprint has it captured this way, just below the nameplate. Sheriff takes charge at PDP headquarters, and just like you indicated, the writer says he broke into Wadata Plaza. It's coming from McCarthy. That story starts right there but continues on page 6. Well, leading for the blueprint this morning, alleged rent scandal. EFCC probes National Assembly, Federal Capital Territories, separate payments with other writers. Saraki Dogara deny, and CSO, that's civil society, demands arrest and prosecution of suspects. That the full details we find on page 6 as well. And what we had taken earlier, the photograph there is just of National Association of Nigerian Students protesting at the South African Embassy in Abuja yesterday. 4.4 billion naira, beg your pardon, $4.4 billion needed to avert hunger in Nigeria, as well as others. That story on page 38. Stakeholders doubt France's role in combating Boko Haram. You find that story on page 9. Just below that, you have fire kills mother, 4 children in Gombe. And to another story, you find this one. Federal government owes retirees 143 billion naira. This is coming from PENCOM. Nigeria seeks global support for Northeast. And another story you find again. Soldier jailed for molesting civilian. All the details on page 16.
All right, just before we go over to Bio, let me also take a look at the Daily Sun. The lead story for Daily Sun is similar to that of this day in the sense that it deals with attacks on Nigerians. You must go. Students tell South African firms with a rider, burn South African flag, storm MTN, DSTV, and ShopRite. You can see the photograph there of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, on the march against xenophobic attacks. Enough is enough. That you have it there. But the earpiece beside the nameplate of the Daily Sun says, Oshibajo, that's acting president, and NAS reached truce on 2017 budget. That details of that story can be found on page 6. Now, below the photograph, you also have the window of other headlines. McCarthy, Sheriff split reps caucus. That's on page 9. Cameroon sends back 517 Nigerians. Details on page 17. Acting president inspects toilets and conveyor belt at Lagos Airport. That's on page 42. Anene showers praises on Kalu, relieves brushes with death.
Let me draw attention to this story that probably we have missed in most of the headlines. The Chinese government has demanded for dry yams from Nigeria. The Minister of Agricultural Rural Development, Chief Audugbe, who discussed this at the inauguration of a technical working committee to fast-track the exportation of yam. And you know, the minister is very good at statistics. And hear him. Nigeria produces 61.7% of global root crops, and there are over 60 varieties of yams. But sadly, Nigeria is not exporting yams. Ghana, which produces less yam than any yam-producing state in Nigeria, dominates European market. Ghanaian yams are sold in the United States for $15, and that is by today's exchange rate of 470 at 7,050 naira for a tuber of yam. Nigeria Yam Export Promotion Program is aimed at Nigeria yam production and also processing and marketing it to what is done to other countries. The Chinese need dry yam to meet industrial and domestic need. Professor Simon Sangi is the chairman of the technical committee. So, Kingsley, you've heard The Chinese are already imported dry yam.
Yeah,
if tomorrow you see yam chips coming from China,
yeah, we already
don't be
discussed
surprised.
that actually. Yeah, the stories we saw what happened to palm oil in this country, and then now it is yam. The other day it was Indian or Ghana gari that was in the environment.
There is the story of goosey coming from India.
India as well. That's packaged goosey or otherwise. But of course, this should be an embarrassment to us as a people. But
can I quickly draw attention to this quick story? There are extensions, expectations that 2017 budget will be passed very, very quickly with rapport. Lauluaka, the spokesman to the Vice President, says that the rapprochement between the acting president, the Senate president, and the speaker led to a meeting which they held at Abuja House. Professor Whistleblower hosted them at Abuja House, and the discussion centered on the 2017 budget. You see, a lot can be achieved by Jojo rather than posturing from each side.
That's right. There's a paper we also have here called Daily Stream. The second list story of the paper, which is at the foot of the at the bottom half of the front page of the Daily Stream, says non-capital release cripples indigenous companies. Details of that story can be found on page 3. So you pass the budget and then you release the funds that are supposed to be released under the capital allocations. But the list story of the Daily Stream says anti-corruption war. We've paid 500 million naira to 3 whistleblowers. Billions recovered, and policy will give federal government trillions, and 50 cases under investigation. All of this attributed to Malami, who is the Attorney General of the Federation. And details of the story can be found on page 5 of the Daily Stream.
Well, outgoing Governor Olusegun Mimiko handed over notes to Governor-elect Rotimi Akeredolu. He is to be sworn in today. And our colleague goes home today. You remember? Innocent Eberechukwu Obaradike bows out today. He's to be buried in Umuokwara Anyanwo in Mbatoli local government of Imo State. He was a colleague. He was editor, New Nigerian, editor Democrat, and group managing director, Daily Times.
That's correct. The funeral services began last week with service of songs in Lekki, Lagos. May so rest in peace. But Atebe, we'd like to thank you for being with us on the program today. We'll see you on Monday, and we hope you enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it.
All right. So it's Good Morning Nigeria. We are reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Today we are discussing social justice and a connection with national development. We'll take a short break now.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh Gerula. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
There are over 250,000 street children in Lagos.
The Street Childcare and Welfare Initiative is a sanctuary for street children and runaways. Rotimi Aziz was one such child. 3 years ago, his life was the streets.
It's hard to sleep on the floor because sometimes rain fall and beat us on the floor while we are sleeping outside. So we experience a whole lot of bad things on the street.
NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, a subsidiary of the Nigerian Television Authority, specializes in creating comfort in all areas of life, such as real estate investments, that is, land, houses, and office spaces, mass leasing, savings and loan scheme, household items and car loans, and so much more. Other information and entertainment services include Property in Style, a TV program that airs on the network service of the NTA, and also Property Connect, a nationwide magazine. Our priority is to bridge poverty gaps and sustain quality welfare of our clients. Partner with us and watch us help you grow. Pay us a visit today at the NTA headquarters permanent site, Area 11 Gariki, Abuja, or our Lagos office at number 15 Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. For more information, visit our website on www.ntaproperties.com.ng, or you can email us on ntap2000@yahoo.com. Call us on 080-2316-3474 or 080-6939-5185 or 070-3189-0555. NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, the much needed help at your doorstep.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria to prepare the ground for a discussion on social justice and the quest for national development. Is this report from Hamad Ambali.
Social justice is one phrase that helps to contextualize the contract between the leaders and the led in any society. In an increasingly unequal world where the rich grow richer and the poor poorer, social justice helps to balance the scales, creating a platform for citizens to truly re-examine concepts such as rights, responsibilities, development, and participatory governance. The debate over social justice is one that has been around for long. Whether it is in feudal societies of old or more advanced democracies as we have today, it continues to stir debates with context and complexities playing a role as national governments contemplate what approaches to adopt. Over time in Nigeria, government's response to evolving a template for social justice has been more of rhetoric than action. In cases where the government puts its money where its mouth is, tackling the challenge of poverty has been the way to go. Consequently, Nigerians have lived through initiatives like National Accelerated Food Production Program, NAF, in 1972, Operation Feed the Nation, OFN, and Green Revolution Program, Better Life for Rural Women, DFRI, and more recently, the NEEDS Initiative. But those who know say social justice touches on access to education, labor market inclusion, social cohesion and non-discrimination, healthcare, and intergenerational justice. Together, these elements help to advocate a sustainable national development agenda, tackle restiveness, and mitigate the effects of disunity that threatens the fabric of the nation. Current global and regional political and economic factors therefore necessitate a plan that envisages taking into cognizance the peculiarities of the Nigerian situation. Solutions in the estimation of observers have to go beyond earmarking huge sums with very little impact on the people. Only then can the social contract between leaders and the led be said to have justified its very existence.
Ahmad Ambali, thank you very much there for that background report. Now we have guests with us here in the Abuja studios as well as at our Just Network Center to elaborate further on the nexus between social justice and national development and where, as a nation, we need to get it right. First, at this time, we'd like to welcome the chairman of the Federal Character Commission. Is here with us in the studios, Dr. Shetima Abubakar. Dr. Shetima Abubakar, a pleasure to have you on the program.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you. And then we also have with us here Hajia Hawa Shekarau. She's country director, IPAS. Hajia Hawa, pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much. I'm not Hajia though.
Okay. All right, so still with us in the Abuja studio, we have a non-face, of course, a non-face on Good Morning Nigeria, civil society activist and director, Center for Social Justice, Mr. Ezenwa Wago. Mr. Wago, thank you very much for coming on the program. And from our Just studio is a public affairs analyst, Mr. Jide Ojo. Mr. Ojo, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right. Well, Hawa and then gentlemen, we already have the subject matter right before us. That's the social justice and national development. Some scholars and other observers believe that part of the explanation for Nigeria's somewhat arrested development in certain fields is attributable to the fact that there is absence of social justice in the country. Before we talk essentially about the nexus, that's the connection between these two, can we have an idea of how we individually conceptualize social justice? Let's begin with the chair of the Federal Character Commission.
Well, thank you very much. Initially, if you look at social justice, which is ultimately a function of human rights and quality of life, initially is justice in the provision and the sharing of resources, and also in the way and manner in which we treat each other, and at the same time look at how best we can now achieve certain parameters of development through providing exclusive or through providing equal opportunities to every Nigerian, irrespective of where she or she comes from, irrespective of gender, irrespective of his physical disability, so that Nigerians look at it in totality. How are we going to build a nation? And on this parameter, what we observed was that instead of actually dealing with social justice, we are dealing with the individual ways of promoting individuals' capabilities of how they are going to get the large chunk of whatever resources the country has. So this is initially the quantum of the problem we found ourselves.
All right, Dr. Shettima, thank you very much. Just before we return again to the Abuja studios, let's go back to Jos. Joe, of course, I mean, you're a fairly familiar guest on Good Morning Nigeria. You're also a columnist, and you interrogate these issues. You listen to Dr. Shettima's categorization of social justice. In your opinion, what is social justice, and how well are we doing?
Thank you very much, moderator, for that question. Issue of social justice is in tandem with what I would say the national question in Nigeria. Over the decades, we know that we have all of the conventions and protocols and constitutional provisions that talked about equality, fairness and justice and fair play and all of that. But like you said in your background, there has been more of rhetorics. If there are social justice in Nigeria, we wouldn't be where we are today. The restiveness in Niger Delta will not have come up. The many crises, national crises that we have, whether religious or ethnic or political, will not have come up. It's because of the absence of social justice that we have all of these crises rearing their ugly heads. Because let's take the very contextual issue of Niger Delta issue. You find out that you have, prior to the discovery of oil wealth, you have principle of derivation, as the basis for distribution of wealth. But immediately we found oil, we changed all of that, and we said, okay, the center controls all the resources, natural resources, whatever resources that there are, and that the states now gets a share of what is derived from their own environment. That was not the agreement under the regional system of governance in Nigeria prior to the 60s. You have a situation where the regional governments were harnessing the resources in their domain, and they were paying kind of royalty and taxes to the central government. And that's why you see different developmental pace at regional level. And that's why today there is a huge agitation for restructuring. And the people in Niger Delta are talking about resource control. Why? Because the resources that have been harnessed from their environment has not been used largely to develop their communities. You still have issues of oil despolation of the environment. You have issues of lack of potable water, high level. Just a few days ago, we were talking of soot in the entire Port Harcourt environment, largely because of the flaring of hydrocarbons and all of the rest, or maybe tire production. Where you have this kind of situation, it's because of lack of social justice. If there is social justice, the goose that lays the old golden egg ought to have been taken into cognizance, making sure that development starts from those environments. They should have the best of roads, the best of hospitals, the best of education facilities. In fact, I don't see any Niger Delta child being out of school if there is social justice. But what we have is apology to Deputy Senate President Inequality, the feeding bottle federalism, where the national appropriates the resources and then gives a kind of monthly subvention to the states, which has not been very developmental. And you can mirror this in virtually every state and every region of this country. If there was social justice, we would not have the S-men and the farmers' crisis that we have on our hands. Because in the past, there were grazing reserves, there were, the people were living harmoniously together, but you have a scenario where people took over those grazing reserves, or maybe government took it over, apportioned and allotted it to their cronies, they built houses on them. Today, the migrant pastoralists are looking for where to feed their shepherd. And in essence, they encroach on farmers' land. And what do we see? Even in resolving those conflicts, it has been said or alleged to be largely lopsided in the way and manner the issue is being resolved. So on paper, Nigeria is signatory to so many protocols and conventions that ordinarily should guarantee social justice. We have it in relevant section, I think section 46 of Nigerian Constitution, talk about equality, equity, justice and fairness and all of those rhetorics. But they have been largely rhetorics, because in practice, you find out that there is, largely absence of social justice in Nigeria. And that is fueling a lot of crises that we have on our hands. There is a lot of double standard in the way and manner the agencies of government that even should enforce the law are applying the rules. And where you have those double standards, you cannot be said to have social justice. I think it was one reggae musician, maybe Peter Tosh or one of the reggae musicians, that are talking about, you cannot have peace without justice. And he was asking for equal right and justice. Because where there is no equal right, where there is, we are running an animal farm situation, where one animal is bigger or greater or better than the other, you cannot be said to have social justice. And these are the things that needs to be addressed if we want harmony, if we want peace, if we want development in Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Jide Ojo. And just so for me to ensure that there is equal right here in the studio as well. Earlier I introduced Mr. Ezenwa Wagu, and he refused answering because that wasn't his appellation. So right now, I'm reintroducing him. Mr. Ezenwa Wagu is the chairman partners for electoral reform. Mr. Wagu, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, now the question is to you. We're still taking a look at everyone's dimension to this aspect of social justice. Let's have an understanding of where social justice is for you.
Well, I will just locate it around the absence of the state in the life of the citizens. The complete absence in the sense that whether you theorize around issues of education, issues of poverty, issues of social protection for the vulnerable and the aged, you find out that the state is completely absent in our country. In many situations, people have termed it that we run, everyone is a local government. You provide your own water, you provide some way electricity for yourself, you pay through your nose to educate your children or your wards or your relations. So in that kind of situation, talking about social justice for me is where is the state? Where is the state in my life? Because when you talk about derivation, you talk about fiscal federalism, at the end of the day, it boils down to what? Whether in the Niger Delta, even within the bad structure that we have, if the resources that is deployed within those areas were used for the benefit of the citizens of that place, we won't be where we are. So until we have a state that is not far away, a state that cares, a state that empathizes, then the concept of social justice will be theoretical, will be academic, and that is part of the challenge that we have. As practical realists, we'll begin to narrow down things in terms of how it affects our people. The resources that are in those places, are they deployed for the benefit of the people of the places? If you go to every state, I keep saying that the argument for creation of state is that every state is sustainable, every state can sustain itself, that the resources is there. When we were in the national conference, the people who were agitating for state creation came with the argument that they can survive, that they have what it takes to survive in their states, and that they don't need to come to any federal. And that is the reality, because if you go to states like Zamfara, if you go to Sokoto, there are the resources embedded in those places that is untapped for the irresponsibility of the state in not tapping those things for the benefit of the citizens is what causes the disconnect that we know as a social injustice.
All right. Ezra Wangu, thank you very much again. We'll come back to you. Hawa Shekarau, let's get your perspective on this.
I just want to agree with the previous speakers, and I want to go a step further to say that government actually exists for the people. And so if the government doesn't have any input in the well-being of the people, then we can clearly say that there is no social justice. A situation where the resources are not equitably distributed to affect the life of the common man in the country is a case of clear social injustice. And today, if you go out to do like a vox pop, I'm sure you will hear a lot about ordinary Nigerians who will tell you, is there a government? They don't know what benefits the government has, brought to their lives. In terms of, simple amenities such as electricity, water, housing, and all that. A large percentage of Nigerians, and I don't want to err, but I want to say that more than half of Nigerians are living below poverty lines. I think this is a very well-known, statistics. And if they are living below poverty lines, how can we justify the kind of huge resources that we have in this country? I think one of the speakers made mention of the Niger Delta. When you go there, you will weep for this country. And I hear this argument about, a lot has been sunk into the Niger Delta, it's been mismanaged. Why would we allow people to mismanage our resources and go scot-free without, justice being meted out? Because justice is a two-way traffic. Justice for the people, and also justice for the person who is being, accused. And so, truly, I agree with my panelists here that indeed the social justice that we have in this country is mere rhetorics and is definitely not what it should be.
Okay, Hawa, well, thank you very much. Again, we're not reducing this to an academic discussion. I mean, as you very well know, the concept of justice is one that engages jurists. Jurisprudence is the science of law. But Dr. Shatima Bukar, that's the chairman of the Federal Character Commission, you listen to the comments of the other guests. Now, there are provisions in the Constitution, the directive principle, fundamental objectives and directive principles of the state, as enshrined in Chapter 2, the rights that you find in Chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution, as we have always had them, versus all kinds of instruments and protocols that Jide Ojo was referring to. In spite of all of this, and the actuality that we experience, according to your fellow panelists, is that we do not have sufficient social justice. Why have we been paying lip service to social justice in this country?
Thank you very much. Initially, let us go back to history. We got it wrong. By the time when we have independence, and when the colonial masters were leaving, they handed over to us, and instead of looking correctly into our own existing situation, we now decided to rely on whatever scrap that is being left, and then the colonial people did this thing enough to sustain themselves. And then we tried to make a situation where we are cut off from the realities of the situation. For example, just very simple scenario is that when the colonial masters were there, they were staying in GRA with all the executives and every permanent secretary, everybody was there, simply because of their own situation. But when we took over as a government or as an independent nation, instead of integrating and looking at the correct scenario and the correct needs of the people, we now also took over the GRA system, tried to cut ourselves off from the people. So every system that is being put in is either elitist or based on individual needs, rather than on the broad need of Nigerians. And this explains the reason why you now see there are so many things government has put in place. But all these things, they pointed out, somebody pointed out initially of prosperity nation, or this and that, unity schools, federal character, all sorts of things. And offices are being given to various communities. You have to have permanent sector everywhere. But if you look at it critically, what you find out is that it's a system that is being made elitist, being served to very few Nigerians. And then the majority of the country, the majority of Nigerians who are the masses are cut off from the realities, are cut off from what we call the social system. Somebody mentioned about no roads, no water supply, no education, nothing. And these are not being, it's deliberately being coined in such a way that the elites decide to do it for themselves. At the end of the day, the masses are suffering. And then what is the end product? The end product is that instead of providing correct social justice, correct this thing that people should get, better education, better roads, better housing, people now started looking at conflict areas, Muslim Christians, Nigerians, this, Hausa versus Yoruba. These are things which, when you look at it, if you go to the masses, Nigerian masses, go to the market, for example, you find every Nigerian doing every business without any of these things. But when it comes to the sharing of this thing, the elites now try to create a situation where it is difficult for the other Nigerians to benefit from it. And that explains the reason why we have poverty, we have discrimination, we have women, this thing, we have child abuse. Everything is being done because all the things that have been put in place are for the benefits of you and I who are elites. If you talk about Niger Delta, if you go to Niger Delta now, you find people who are now thriving on this particular thing. That's the indigenous. But while if you go to the rural areas, you find people suffering. And they never knew that these resources even belongs to them, because they are being kept away from the reasoning and from idea that these resources actually belong to them, and then they need this thing. The leadership problem is also another very serious thing. We have to get a situation where people have to look at it very critically, despite the fact that constitutions have made these things. If the leadership is not getting it right, if there is not good governance, if there is corruption, somebody coining everything that can even sustain the whole of your own region to himself, if we don't have a good governance to look at these things critically, then whatever structure we put in, whatever this thing we put in, as like my colleague in Joseph pointed out, is cosmetic. And for us to do that, we must go and understand the Constitution. majority of us don't understand the Constitution. The Constitution only is meant for the elites. Only you and I know that that is social justice. Only you and I that is compulsory. People look at government resources, for example, as a resources belong to either to the governor or to the National Assembly. They talk in terms of my resources. You are spending my money. You are doing this. These are what utterances some people are making. So unless we are sure that people understand exactly what is their own rights, what is their own this thing, it is not easy even for them to demand for this thing. So yes, the Constitution is right. Yes, the laws put in place is right. Yes, there is what we call justice. How many Nigerians can even come and afford this justice we are talking about? How many Nigerians can go to court and say demand for his own right that he is not being provided with potable water? How many Nigerians will say that, yes, we have budgeted for this thing and then you are going to construct road from Kano to Maiduguri? How many Nigerians will ask, why is this not taking place? Because they are not being aware of, they are not aware of what is happening.
All right, Dr. Buka, thank you very much. Let's return to Mr. Owago. Earlier on, you made mention of the aspect of leadership. Dr. Shetima just touched on that too. And we know that social justice is supposed to be the life wire of any societal harmony. Now, what are those fundamentals, those critical fundamentals that is actually a crisis for us achieving or confronting social justice as it should be? Because everyone seems to, if you look at the political landscape today, it's say that we have this blame culture, hate messages, speeches. You need to actually visit some pages on the internet and see how Nigerians are actually tackling one another. Where exactly is this missing point for us as a nation to achieving social justice?
For me, it's education, education, education. And I'm not just talking about education in the sense in which we understand it. I'll just give you an example. Somebody has pocketed for himself the money for 4 schools. And then he comes around to your constituency and gives scholarship to indigent students. Meanwhile, the money to build 4 schools he has appropriated to himself. There is, if we could invest money in ensuring that the majority of our citizens have quality education, the thing that makes democracy tick is questioning, asking questions. So once you are unable to ask questions, once you are unable to say, look, what is it that has been appropriated for us in this our area? If we have cottage industries, if we are supposed to have cottage industries, why are you bringing, nobody can even bring Keke Napep now because it's almost 800,000 naira. So you bring grinding machines, you bring Okada and all of those things. Meanwhile, the resources to set up a cottage industry that can engage these people have been pocketed by an individual. That's the highest level of social injustice. So education would be able to bring us to that point where we are able to interrogate first and foremost what this whole democracy means for us. How citizens, what is the right, what is the quality of our citizenship? What does this citizenship confer on us as a people? I was listening to your newspaper report, and one of the leaders said that was referring to citizens as subjects. There are no subjects in the democracy. And it is that mindset that fuels social injustice, because it is now, you are the ruler, these are the subjects. And so, except education is brought to bear, conscientizing the citizens, mobilizing them to realizing the quality of their citizenship and what that means, we are just going to be paying lip service. But beyond education, it's also important to begin to interrogate our leadership recruitment process. What kind of party system do we have? I keep referring to the fact that we are told that if you wanted to be a member of the NCNC or the action group, you were first sent to a school to go and learn about that political party. It is called, they have their school where they train you, then you come into the party. Today, there is nobody called member of any political party. People don't even understand where they run. This morning, they are members of this party. In the evening, they have moved to another party. In that sense, there is no direction, there is no pointer to look. This is even what we stand for.
Mr. Wango, are you necessarily suggesting, of course, we're in a democracy now, and that we've been so for nearly 18 years, since 1999. Are you suggesting that we had social justice even during the military regimes?
No, I didn't say so. I said...
Are you suggesting?
No, I didn't say... What I said is that the difference between dictatorship and civil rule, because we are still transiting to democracy. The difference between dictatorship is the question, that asking question. Because democracy, dictatorship builds bridges, dictatorship builds schools, dictatorship creates, brings electricity. In fact, I've sometimes invest more in infrastructure than the civil rule that we have. But the disconnect now is that inability of the people to question and interrogate their leaders and ask them questions as to issues that pertain to them is what is creating...
The texture of the social contract.
Yes, is very, very weak, and people are not able to... See, just get it. People, every day we open NTA, and then you see people say, look, I'm doing medical, I've taken medical visits to my community. And then you harass people out, you test their eyes, you test for hypertension. All that is needed is for you to make sure that the hospital or the dispensary in that place functions in such a way that those people you don't need to do that medical drama that you do on television all the time. And so that is the point that I make, that if we take away this hypocrisy, if we take away the drama, and the citizens themselves understand that at every point in time that somebody pretends to be solving your problem, he's in really, really deepening that crisis by the fact that he has taken what belongs to everybody and has taken it for himself. That is the ABC of social inequality and injustice. Because everywhere you go to, my mother in the village does not understand what social justice in its contextual academic sense, what it means. But what she will understand is that she goes to the hospital and that there's some medication for her, that she's able to commute from one place to the other relatively easy without some kind of dysfunction. So if we are able to create education, mobilize our people to understand that this is democracy, and that democracy is about participation, is about inclusiveness, is about engagement. Take, for instance, the Constitution. I keep talking about it. The right to vote. People talk about the right to vote is given to somebody who is 18 years, but the right to be voted for is postponed till you are 30. It's postponed till you are 35. It's postponed till you are 40 years. But at 18 you can vote. What level of inequality can that be? That I can vote, but I cannot even aspire to run for office until I get to a certain
Well, wouldn't that also be part of an ingredient of social justice? Because you need some learning curve. At 18, what would be your experience package?
This is about democracy. At 18, what is the learning curve that I have to vote for you? What is that learning curve that prepares me to be able to use the decision of my thumb effectively for you? If I can do that at 18, if I can take that decision that you are good enough to rule me, do not legislate my right to aspire. Do not criminalize my right to aspire. That is injustice.
Okay, all right. Ezenwa Wangu, thank you very much. Of course, you're always our regular guest when we are discussing electoral matters. Let's return to our Just Network studios. Mr. Jidojo, the guests here with us in the Abuja studios have touched on a matter which, of course, also engages other commentators, namely leadership. But let's break it down. Is it the case, on the basis of what we have said, on the basis of what we do experience in this country, that Nigeria is probably afflicted, with perhaps one of the most progressive set of elites that you can find anywhere around the world?
I really, we have to put issues in context. I'm not sure that Nigeria is afflicted. Rather, I think it's just that we have a very wrong governance structure. or let me say, badly run governance structure that allows and permits, you see, every potential, even we followers that are criticizing and criminalizing all our leaders today, we would fare better if we are in that system. We run a rentier system. We run a system that is based on patronage. It's easy to blame the leaders, like Ezenwa is saying. Don't do medical drama, don't do empowerment, get those structures, get the hospitals functioning. But you will be surprised that the people themselves will ask, what brought about this issue of stomach infrastructure, or what is called see and buy, or, as we know it in the common recent parlance. It's people themselves that will say, look, I need money. Look, let's take the example of what former Governor Kayode Fayemi did in Ekiti State. He built the roads, built hospitals, provided the infrastructures, but at elections, instead of the people of Ekiti rewarding him for providing those infrastructures, they were the same people asking him, stomach infrastructure. You have built roads, you have built hospitals. What about what I'm going to eat? I need money. And they don't care where the money comes from. So they want a share of the national cake in financial terms, not in terms of infrastructure. So what I'm saying is that we have placed wrong values on our governance system. So much so that even if angels comes to rule Nigeria, they are going to be forced. If they want, I listened to one of the members of House of Reps, Professor Majid Alabi from Osun State, and he was lamenting. He said, look, I'm not sure I'm going to contest in the next election because even the people I'm fighting for are asking me to join the bandwagon of people who dish out money to them. And if people have that kind of mentality that the governance is all about peanuts that they receive from the leaders, then we have gotten it wrong. And that's where I will agree with Ezenwa that we need citizen education. We need to let our people know the cost of vote buying, of vote trading, because that's where the social construct starts from. When you are voting for somebody and you are voting on the basis of the 5,000 or 2,000 or 1,000 naira that he gives you, and then you turn around and ask the same person that he has not fixed your roads or that the hospital is not functioning or whatever. It's about investment in the political process. And as former Senate President Adolphus Wabara has told us years ago, that some of them sell their property to contest elections and that it's just right and fair for them to recoup their investment when they get into power. So if we have that kind of mindset, I would say that is where we need a national reorientation. We need a national rebirth to start thinking that, look, governance is not about this share the money. We used to call a party share the money. When you hail them, you say share the money. And for 16 years, they were sharing the money, but where has it led us? It has led us to a situation, it has led us to a high debt portfolio that we take all manner of loans and all of that purportedly for governance, for fixing our infrastructure. But what has happened? Look at the prison system in Nigeria today. You have more awaiting trials in place, and the government has not deemed it fit that people are serving jail terms when they have option of fine of even 2,000 naira, 5,000 naira. Nobody is caring that our prisons are congested. That is injustice of the highest order. Because ordinarily, you should not have, in a Senate line, you don't have more awaiting trials as against the convicts. And that's so it all boils down to our values, our social values. No matter how much rhetorics, no matter how much lamentations we talk, until we fix our value systems and start reorientating our people about demanding for the right thing rather than the ephemeral, transient, perfunctory dole out. Then we will never get there. We will never get there.
Okay, Mr. Gigi Ojo, let's hope the song of Bongo Sekwe will come in here if we will ever get there. We'll make it. But he has raised so many questions, of course, one of which is the aspect of moral question of what we truly want as a nation. Shekara, the abandonment of cultural values of the people of Nigeria, of course, this abandonment didn't just start today. It started at a point, and it has thrown up so many things for society to actually pick up. Is this a major factor, actually, in the issue of ignoring social justice, which is critical to national development? Issue of cultural values and how we intend to build that which we want as a national development.
Yeah, talking about cultural values, there's a saying in my place, and every, cat of man or woman, there's a saying we say that the cat of man is not, doesn't,
That's why it's Nigerian. Say it as it is in your place.
Lat, meaning that the cat of man is a proud person and because he is by nature proud, he is very hardworking, very industrious, and would want to never settle for less, and would also ensure that he provides for his family, and the only way he can provide for his family and all that is through hard work, without going cap in hand begging from another person. And for me, building on that kind of mindset or cultural orientation of the cat of man, I ask myself today, is that really true of what is happening in our society today? A lot of people have abandoned the way of life that we grew up with, that of the head of the family, the man, being the breadwinner of his family, being a farmer, farming and making sure that he places food on the table for his family. Now you discover that people have abandoned ways that they can actually be able to be self-reliant, and meet their responsibilities in the family.
For the home front,
yes,
which is spilling into the society?
Exactly. That's the point I'm trying to say, because people have abandoned what they ought to do and have turned themselves into people that expect, the politicians, people who are in position to dole out, the resources. I'm trying to link it up with this issue of the stomach infrastructure. They are not interested in the necessary infrastructure that would ensure they are self-reliant. Rather, they want to, get the money that will take care of them now. Okay. And I think that if we, go back to that cultural orientation that we have of that saying that he who is lazy should not eat. The people, on their own try to be very, very industrious, hardworking, do what they are supposed to do, till the ground to be able to harvest and provide, food for their family. Then I think we'll be able to cut out that reliance on government. Because for me, one of the conversations I've had with one of our political leaders has been that, there's a lot of expectation. People expect that when they have need for either to pay school fees for their children, to put food on the table for their family, they go to the political leaders. And these politicians, how do they get the money? How much is their income at the end of the day? So they have to go.
Just a minute. This is the same question I was asking SNY a moment ago. If we're looking at the country in a continuum, let's say the post-independence years, we had military rule. The point has also been touched on that, look, we didn't necessarily have social justice during the military era. And that's why I would like us, to back up a bit and then go back to our traditional setting. Dr. Shetima Buka, we had social justice, a sense of social justice in our traditional societies. Without social justice, no society, no system can survive. Where did we lose track of that transition, that carryover of social justice in our traditional setting into our modern post-independence Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I want to look at the issue of our values in the first place. Initially in this country, just in the 60s or early 70s, if you are saying this is a thief or this is a murderer, you don't even need to identify yourself with the people. And then you go into a situation where if you are being accused of even stealing government money, the auditors, when you tell auditors are coming, everybody was trying to make sure that you are not being found guilty, because the people will now discard you, because either you are a thief or you are depriving people of their own right. But this time around, if you are a thief or you steal or you are corrupt, whatever amount of money you have, as long as you go to the community and you touch them, you are the person who is becoming a leader. That is why I'm talking about the quality of leadership. A leadership that does not investigate who is to become a leader in the first instance. That this man being culturally accepted, does he got the norms and the values of the society that accepts? Everybody, every society, every ethnic group in this country discard killing of people. Every district discards stealing. But at the end of the day, these are the people who are now becoming, in one way or the other, the leaders of this thing. You are not investigating them. That is another aspect of this thing. The second aspect is that people talk of stomach infrastructure or whatever because people don't believe in the existence of a true democracy. If you are elected or if you are appointed, what they do is that you come and get your this thing, you stay in this, you cut off from the community. So if you go there, you are not going to come back. Since you are not going to come back and you say you are not going to give us anything, give us what is there now, and then let us have it, instead of waiting it for the rainy day. So the problem is that still we are going to look at the structure and the system that cuts off the majority of Nigerians, who are the masses, from the realities of this world. And therefore, whether they are going to have social justice or not, as long as you are going to provide them with whatever thing that they are going to get today, then they're now being contented, as I said. And then secondly, if you look at the ordinary Nigerian who are not in the system are very hardworking. They struggle to survive. Go into the market and look at these ordinary Nigerians, how they push trucks and do this thing and that in order to get to survive. But do we as a government improve the positions of this thing? And as long as we don't supply to the people the ways and the means of generating employment, generating this and giving them something to do, then we end up in creating a lot of things which is eminent of absence of social justice, such as insecurity. It's a really an aspect of absence of social justice, because people manipulate and then create a lot of things out of this thing. Why is this thing happening? Because, as I said, and I still support, that lack of education. I agree with my colleague that education and the education that creates something for people to do, not only employment, but to be productive in the economy, and then so that people are to be employed and then they look at themselves as useful citizens. As long as they are being neglected, then they go back to every aspect of the thing that we now call insecurity.
All right, Dr. Buka. When we return, we'll find out what a body like Federal Character Commission is doing to address some of these areas alongside our agencies. Well, we'll take a look at tweets that have been coming from our viewers, and we'll look at other areas. SMB Johnson says, entrenching social justice in Nigeria's development process will facilitate social, economic, and political cohesion.
Tega Esemwede has this tweet: Nigeria must embrace the new world where everyone is equal, and the politicians should learn to serve those that voted for them.
From Franklin, former is the street. No doubt, social injustice and a culture of mediocrity has been the bane of national development. Government lays the foundation for all of this.
Dele Jack Solomon: the scarcity of justice in Nigeria has essentially increased the threat and danger of crime and violence. Quality education is expensive.
And here is another one from Ogenetega Esemwede. The government should do more to tackle the collapsing system of social justice in Nigeria, the gap between the poor and rich, gender inequality.
Festus Akimboyewa has this tweet: in Nigeria, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. The underdevelopment in Nigeria is due to lack of social justice.
From Eno Ayuk: social justice doesn't exist in Nigeria, largely due to absence of political will and controversial templates which breed violence.
Sani Michael Omakoji: social justice has been relegated in Nigeria. One hears of social justice only during electioneering campaigns. All right, now those are some of the tweets that we are taking in the meantime. Hawa Shekara, just before we go on this short break, what do you think is needed to be done, particularly from the point of view of the leadership elite class?
I think I agree with Ezenwa when he talked about education. Education is very, very key. And of course, there are different forms of education. We need to sensitize our people. We need to, create awareness. Let them know what is expected of our leaders so that they can hold them accountable for the kind of leadership they have. It is when we are able to do that that we can entrench good governance and equitable distribution of resources of the country. And also, talking about leadership, there's a saying that the people deserve the kind of leaders they have. Now, when election comes, people are not talking about the attributes that these leaders have, why they think these leaders would be able to, provide the kind of good governance we want to see. Rather, if you go on social media, you will hear people are rather talking about, leaders on the basis of where they come from, whether they know them or not, what they stand to gain in terms of favors and all that. So Nigerians need to be sensitized for them to know that, the decision they make with their thumb is one that would affect their lives, for within the period that these people are in power. And so they need to ask questions about what these people have for them and how they intend to, lead when they get into power. And also, we also need to be able to use the different mechanisms that we can use to hold them accountable. Clearly, you find, let me give an example of a governor of a state who gets to that seat and then does not provide the real dividends of democracy, does not provide good governance, and then instead of using the mechanism within which you can say, you've not done well, you've done 1, 2, 3 things which are contrary to what the Constitution says, we need to impeach you. And rather than having that kind of conversation, people begin to bring in sentiments, and you are left with a leader for 4 years who, rather than improving the lives of the people, is actually retrogressing,
All right. Country Director of IPAS, Hawa Shekara, would like to thank you for being part of our discussion this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay. All right. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we're going to continue with the conversation.
I come to you in the name of money.
There is mega fortune in town. Easy money to be made. Everyone wants to get paid. And so the scheming, the intrigues in Make Money Miss.
If you bring that 300 beer, if you just wait for 15 days, you know how much go enter? 90 bill.
Unbelievable! This week's edition of the award-winning comedy and social satire series from Mr. John Bull, featuring the biggest, the best, and the most hilarious stars in Nigerian entertainment.
Now, why you on the name of your own business, I be like a winch name.
And showing at 8:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Friday on NTA Network, International, and Star Times.
Sir, the small money that I used to give to you to hold for me.
Oh, yes.
I need it.
Give me 30 minutes.
Oh, I'm less busy. I'm not doing anything. I can actually wait here for 30 minutes.
Professor John Bull is about to unleash.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
Welcome to the new speed of life.
What makes a Nigerian mom powerful?
I encourage my kids to learn new things. And if they get hurt, I rely on the power of my Dettol's One Capful. To fight germs, it's like my own first aid kit.
My family needs protection from germs. I use the power of Dettol's One Capful to disinfect surfaces and clothes to keep them clean and safe from germs.
I trust the power of Dettol's One Capful for bathing. The power of Dettol's One Capful protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Millions of powerful Nigerian moms use the power of Dettol's One Capful to protect their families. Be a powerful Nigerian mom with Dettol. Be 100% sure.
All right, welcome back. But if you just tuned in, it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're continuing with the conversation, and we're still retaining Hawa Shakara. We signed off a moment ago, but we'd like her to listen in on the contributions of the other guests, particularly now the chairman of the Federal Character Commission, Dr. Shetima Abuka. Dr. Shetima Abuka, part of the rationale for the creation of the Federal Character Commission was to ensure social justice. Has the Character Commission achieved this, or what is your reaction to the views of some persons that indeed the activities or prescriptions of the Commission have tended to exacerbate social injustice in the country?
Well, thank you very much. It's a very relevant question. The idea of federal character is to, as rightly pointed out, instill social justice. And there are also other organizations that are similar, like NOAA and others, that are also being set in to propagate social justice and to implement it. So, but unfortunately, the structure over the years, or the leadership, or whatever, all these formations or structures were being put in place just in name. Why did I say that? Because if you look at it in reality, the structures are very good, the ideas are very good, the objectives of which is established are very good. But at the end of the day, nobody pays any attention to it. For example, you don't fund it, you don't ask people to go and monitor it, or look at the compliance of how these things are being done. If government have developed a lukewarm and they could not even fund it, because I was made to understand before I came in that government just said we are just putting in these structures just for political reasons. These are some of the things. And then at the end of the day, you are not going to do it. But if you look at the objective of the federal character to ensure that there is no part of this country is being neglected, either in terms of employment or in terms of provision of infrastructure facilities, social amenities, and economic services. All these things are there in the Constitution. You look at it, you go and did it, but do you have the funds or the ability to go about doing it? Do you have the right support from the government to go in and implement these things? These things are not being done over the years. And therefore, without these things being properly channeled into looking at proper ways of employment to ensure that no part of this country, whether it is in the south, in the east, or in the west, is being deprived of getting employment or in being deprived of provision of infrastructure facilities and social amenities as it is being demanded by the Constitution. Are we doing this thing rightly? Yes, we are doing it, but not to the extent that we are going to influence and get social justice. And why am I saying this thing? Because if you look at Federal Character or look at NOAA, they have offices and all over the country trying to find out, are these things which are being in the budget being implemented right as demanded in the Constitution or as demanded by the laws? We cannot go in and do this. Why? Because we have no correct funds to go in and implement these things. But within these years, from the very little we have done, in the areas where we can reach, we have now made it to realize that there is no place in this country now Nigerians are not being employed. If you come to NTA, you find everybody, not necessarily from one particular section of the country. If you go to universities, the same thing. If you go to ministries and this, you find all class of Nigerians, irrespective of where they come from, provided that they have merited it, provided that you don't compromise merits. But we cannot say this of provision of infrastructure. We cannot say this of provision of social amenities. For example, housing. Do we have all proper housing for everybody across the country?
How do you respond to the other leg of the view that's been expressed by some persons that the enforcement or implementation of the federal character principle has tended also to be a sacrifice of meritocracy?
No, it's not. It's not. You see, what actually happened is that if you are employing, for example, it is the MDA that is concerned that provides its own template, what he wants to employ and how he wants to employ. And then, provided that that person is qualified, then you employ him. But you don't employ people simply because he's from federal character demands. You only employ if that particular individual is qualified and satisfy the needs of the MDS that are employing the individual. So it's not compromising merit, but it's only saying that allow Nigerians to work anywhere they want to work, whether in Maiduguri or if you want to work in a teaching hospital, and if you are from Imo State and you want to work there, there is no way they can deprive you of getting that. You are Nigerian, they have to give you opportunity. If I want to work in NTA and I'm coming from Lagos and I want to work there, then there is no way if I'm qualified. If the conditions being set up by the NTA is I have fulfilled that condition, then you employ me. But if I don't fulfill that condition, you don't employ me. So it doesn't compromise merit. All what you are saying is that allow Nigerians to be employed where they want to work.
Right,
that is all what I'm
thank you very much, Dr. Bukal. Quickly now, Mr. Ezenwa, of course, different bodies, CSOs and all that, people asking questions, perhaps not the right questions this time around. How do we catalyze sustaining these developments, the kind of engagement that we want to see moving forward in addressing the national development question? Briefly.
Well, we need to deal with first the scourge of secret employment that is currently going on now. I don't know whether the chairman is aware of that. The Central Bank of Nigeria, everybody knows, had secret recruitment. What that does is that it deprives the children of the poor the opportunity to also compete for those spaces. Not just immigration. Every day you go to MDAs, you see people resuming work, nobody knows from where they're coming from. And there is nothing that heightens social injustice than the fact that I'm qualified, but because I don't know Kingsley, I can't work in NTA. There's going to be a problem with that going forward. So as CSOs, we're engaging these institutions and say, look, open your process in such a way that people of every hue in Nigeria can have access to the resources of our country through jobs. We need to also stop the glamorization of entrepreneurship to the point where the children of the rich are in foreign schools, training to become medical doctors, training to become aeronautic engineers, and we are telling our own people who have gone to school to go and start making shoes. That is, just make shoes, start doing pap and package it and all of that. That is social injustice. It is creating this equality. So if we are going to be making shoes, bring your own children as well, so that they can also make shoes here. You don't put your own children through the resources, taxpayers' money. You put them out to train so that when they come back, they continue to, load it. You smuggle them into institutions of government and continue to deprive the children of the poor the opportunity to do this. That campaign needs to go on. That education needs to go on. That the country belongs to all of us. It does not be, people are simply just privileged. And to get to office, political office now, is not because you are Chino Achebe or you are Wole Soyinka that you are a Nobel laureate. Most of the time, most often than not, it is a product of cronyism. It is who you know. It is recommendation. It is not on account of the fact that you are more brainy, you are brainier than any other person. So if we understand that clearly, if we want to create a just and equitable society, then we must create the enabling environment for all citizens to compete fairly, squarely, to get to the resources of the country.
All right, Azenwa, thank you very much again for those examples you just cited. But of course, you know that if you apply to the NTA and you were qualified, you will be engaged. I'm not the one to do that, by the way. But let's go back to Jos Network Center. Joe, let's tie this up with our subject matter today, namely social justice and the quest for national development. Now, let's not sound pessimistic, but if we are unable to resolve the many instances or symptoms of social injustice that we see around us, is our development likely to be hamstrung?
Definitely, it's going to hamper development. There is a nexus between social justice and national development. And that's why the issue of national question needs to be resolved. That's why the issue of restructuring the country needs to be taken very seriously. Because that's the only thing that can end all of these agitations. Why is IPOB, Niger Delta Avengers, and all of those militant groups, why are they rearing their ugly heads today? It's because of lack of social justice. You go to Southeast, look at the roads, look at the infrastructures in the Southeast. It's like they're not part of the country. Yet, these are the power of the intellectual, creative power hub of Nigeria. Look at what is being done in Inewi and Onitsha axis, the kind of Aba made and all of that. We just imagine if we support the Aba entrepreneurs, the Inewi entrepreneurs, the innocents of this world, and the rest of them. It's going to liberalize. It's going to give them a sense of belief, because governance is about inclusive governance. That is part of the things we must realize. We need inclusive governance. We need open and accountable leadership. These are the ways to go. We need to restructure this country to make it more effective. We have dwelt too much on rhetorics. We have used semantics. But if we don't do the needful, there will be high level of restiveness. And when there is restiveness, there will be destruction of even the little infrastructure that we said is in deficit. And when there is infrastructural deficit, then you will be lagging behind in terms of development index. Because as it is now, why did the country want to borrow $30 billion? It's to fix infrastructures. So if there is no peace, if there is restiveness, if there is militancy all over the country, from one ethnic or religious or pastoralists and farmers, or the Avengers or the IPOB or all of that, there will be no development. So we need to look at the root cause of all of this crisis and develop. The government needs to have the political will to fix this issue. It's not beyond government, and I'm not pessimistic that we need to import people, experts or consultants to help us fix Nigeria. We do know where the problem lies. We have analyzed this over and over and again. The point is to apply. Look at the National Conference report of 2014. It tells you about how we can embrace inclusive governance, what we need to do even to fix our party system, to fix our governance structures, what needs to be done and all of that. It's just implementing these things. Once we implement them faithfully, dispassionately, and with national patriotism in view, I think we will overcome all of these challenges of social injustice. But if we shy away and continue to play on rhetorics and continue to dwell on lamentations, we will be where we are 10 years down the line. We will still be talking the same way we are talking. So the problems are not insurmountable. The solutions are there. We've talked about national rebirth. We've talked about national orientation. We talked about restructuring the country to make it more effective and inclusive in its governance system, leaving no one behind, and also having accountable leadership.
All right, public affairs analyst Jide Ojo, would like to thank you very much for your insights. You joined us from our Jos Network studios. We hope you have a nice weekend.
Very much for having me.
All right, let's come back to the Abuja studios. And very briefly now, Hawa Shekarau, what's your take? What needs to be done in addition to what has been said and what you also touched on in terms of ensuring that we get the right connection between social justice and national development?
I think we've talked about education, we talked about leadership, we talked about the need to for the led themselves to also be asking questions and also hold our leaders accountable. I think the issue of corruption is also an issue that needs to be tackled headlong, not selectively, not, I mean, we need to tackle it without wavering. And I think that once we're able to do that, we'll definitely be on the path to social justice for Nigerians.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll quickly run through the next set of tweets that we have in the House. The example of deplorable situation in Niger Delta is that of corruption and absence of justice. The culprits are known.
Alhaji Ishaq Abdul Hamid has this tweet. Now, the issue of Almajiris in the north puts a question mark on the government's disbursement of social justice.
Shakiru says, our leaders now were once followers that condemned whatever they condemned. When they get to the leadership position, they lose control, no matter their education.
And Michael Makoji, now, if we must get our social justice back, as it was during the time of Awolowo, Zik of Africa, and Tafawa Balewa, citizens' education is key.
SMB Johnson, with the heterogeneous nature of Nigeria, social justice will ensure edifying stability, uncontested peace, and unprejudiced coherence.
And Festus Akimboyewa tweets, says the meat and bone of national development is social justice. Nigeria can't develop in the face of inequality and blatant violations of human rights.
Nathaniel Shock, bad leaders that lead to bad governance cause social injustice, which boils down to what we have, impunity everywhere.
And Jack Solomon says social justice is about assuring the protection of equal access to liberties, rights, opportunities, as well as taking care of the masses. Right, so those are the tweets contributions from our viewers that we can take at this time. We would also like to appreciate our three guests who are still with us in the Abuja studios. Mr. Ezenwa Wago, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform. Thank you, as always, for being part of our discussion. We also would like to thank Hawa Shekarau, Country Director, IPAS, for being here today, and the Chairman of the Federal Character Commission, Dr. Shatima Abuka. All right, so that does it for our discussion segment on Good Morning Nigeria. We now go over to our complimentary segment. We'll take one or two before we sign off for today.